Today on Aging Untold, navigating life's final chapter.
The person that's dying is doing that inner work. Whatever that is, they're preparing their soul and their inner being to leave the world, and you need to let them go.
We'll provide gentle, practical guidance to recognize when a loved one is at the end of life. Plus, we'll explore blue zones, places where people are living exceptionally longer.
It's not necessarily where you live, it's how you live.
And share simple tips you can use for longevity in good health. And
I guess I'm a doer.
her inspiring choice to continue giving back after a career filled with shaping young minds. Experts with advice and solutions. You're watching Aging Untold with Aging Well Coach Catherine Ambrose, gerontologist Sam Craddock, aging expert Amy O'Rourke, and board certified physician Dr. Ray Rogers. We're all getting older. It's about time we talked about it.
Welcome to Aging Untold. All too often we plan for the future but avoid talking about the end of life. It is a difficult conversation, so much so that a 2024 AARP study found that 7 in 10 seniors generally avoid the subject. Recognizing when a loved one is entering the final stage of life can be difficult. Dr. Ray, let's talk first about the physical signs we see as a loved one gets closer to the end.
Yeah, I think it's really all about, at the end, the body's really trying to conserve energy. The energy is gone. So you start to see different signs of energy conservation. So one will be fatigue. They start to sleep kind of all day long. The withdrawal, decrease in appetite, because now they don't need as much energy in that. And you'll see some mental changes as well, too. I like the fact of being an obstetrician. I was bringing life in. So I'm not used to actually sit there physically seeing, but I know that you guys out in the trenches would actually see this and be there. So I think it's important to educate the family that their loved one is not suffering.
Right.
This is a normal progression.
Yeah, it is a normal part of life. And I have been with well over 100 people now when they've gone through their final sunset. Hospice care is primarily really one of my favorite fields to be in. And the hardest part really isn't that death is coming, is that nobody is taking the time to teach the family what death is going to look like. And so they see these normal signs that the trained eye knows, and they think it's a medical emergency. So I have to sit everybody down and I talk to them every time, and I'm like, look, they're not going to be hungry. Don't force nutrition. Everybody thinks, okay, I've got to feed. They didn't eat anything today. It's okay. The body doesn't need any nutrition at this point. Yes, keep the mouth moist and use a swab. They're going to sleep more. We all fear that death rattle. I know everybody that's ever heard of somebody passing, they hear about that death rattle. And that's just when fluids are building up in the lungs. Hospice agencies have gotten great at managing that. They use an atropine, which dries those secretions, so you're not hearing that. Because that sounds very disturbing, even for those of us that work in the field. So, but the modeling, I think that is one of the toughest, because as the heart starts to shut down and the cardiovascular system's slowing, it's going to send the blood supply to the organs. And so your extremities start to get really dark and blotchy and color changes. And so those things are hard to see because your flesh is literally turning a color. And so families get disturbed by this, but I always, let them know they're okay. They're doing what the body needs to do to go to rest, to that final rest.
Yeah, that body, that blood flow is trying to go to the vital organs, so it's pulling. It's just the last reserve.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I think it's cruel. Maybe a nicer way would be to say unthoughtful, to not share your knowledge with the family, and to do your best. Everyone that's working with the patient and the family, do your best to explain to the family what is going on.
Right. There's so much fear. That's what I've seen in people watching someone die. They're scared to death. They've never seen it. They don't know what to expect. There's an awkwardness. And I like to tell people, whatever you would want to say to them, just talk. Don't expect a response back, but just talk, because I go on the assumption that they can hear you.
Yes.
And anything that you want to say, any comforting. I had one person say, I don't know what to say. And I said, have you said goodbye? And he was shocked, like, oh, that's something I should do. And I think it's important to remember that, because the person that's dying is doing that inner work. Whatever that is, they're preparing their soul and their inner being to leave the world. And you need to let them go.
Right, right. And I think, families get really disturbed when you rally. And I've seen it so many times where everybody's around and the family's already into intense grieving. You know that we're actively dying. You go through an active process to die. And then all of a sudden there's this rally where there's life again. And so the family finds hope in that. And that is really just that last big energy burst where you kind of come to. It can be comforting for families, but it can also be disturbing. The one that we haven't talked about is terminal agitation. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen that, but I have. And that is where the person isn't settled. And I think for me in the field, it is one of the hardest and most disturbing. It's not the most common, but it does happen. And I always have to then say, okay, we've got to find the reason. Right. Is there pain? Are we constipated? Believe it or not, that causes that pain. So there are those things that go on. Are we retaining urine and we can no longer let that out? And that's something internal. So work really close with your hospice nurse, hospice case manager. Ask all the questions. If you're the family member, ask. Don't think that any question you have is dumb.
Right. I think that's a really good important point, because most of the time they lose bowel. They lose functions. So if they're not doing that and they're agitated, that's a really good good point.
Yeah, and they could be experiencing pain somewhere, and you really need to check and try to figure it out. And I feel like loved ones who are really responsible for asking the questions and getting the care for our loved one that we need. And about 7 in 10 Americans say they would prefer to die at home, surrounded by family. And hospice is one way to possibly be able to do that. If your pain can be managed at home, if there is pain, that is the way to do it.
Absolutely.
I think you have to remember that the hearing is the last to go. So talking to them and letting them know it's okay.
Always. And don't say foolish things. Don't say foolish things in the room because they're not conscious, because they are able to still hear most of the time.
And if they've died and you were out of the room, that was their decision.
Yeah.
I've heard that said, oh my gosh, I should never have left, I should never have. But if you're a mom and you don't want your daughter to be there when you die, you've made that decision. So I like to provide comfort for people. Wherever you were when they died, they made that decision themselves.
Because sometimes they're holding on for you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Coming up, championing diabetes prevention.
The weight is down 9 pounds, so that's really good for me.
We'll show you how communities are fighting diabetes disparities and share tips on prevention. But first, we look at why residents in certain parts of the world are living longer lives.
That natural movement, the normal eating clean, these are all huge.
And share practical habits to stay active, healthy, and engaged.
Living longer these days, and with so much information out there, it's easier to find ways to age well. But some places really stand out. They're called blue zones, regions around the world, including one in the U.S., where people live 7 to 10 years longer than the average American and have an unusually high number of centenarians. Those are people that have celebrated their 100th birthday. So let's first talk about what's contributing to the health and wellness of the people living in blue zones.
Living longer isn't about one habit, it's about your environment. Now, that doesn't mean necessarily your physical environment. So I like to point out Loma Linda, California, and it's right in my neck of the woods. I live really close to there. They actually have one of the worst ozones in the country. So there's a lot of smog there. So when you think, wait a minute, these people are living in the smog and they're in a blue zone. What are they doing different? And it's not necessarily where you live, it's how you live.
The part I like to focus on is the relationships.
Yes.
So I think about when I talk to a girlfriend that I really love and how I feel afterwards, or I think when I go to a buddy to go to lunch and I think of how I feel. And then I think about going to a volunteer somewhere and feeling that sense of purpose. And if I establish that and have that in my daily life, how that makes me feel.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Like you said, it's not just one physical thing. And I think that engagement and purpose is a huge part of it, along with the other physical things, especially movement, but not movement like I'm going to the gym. It's just a natural movement. That natural movement, the normal eating clean, these are all huge. And that allows you to apply those principles and bring it to wherever you are for that improved quality of life. Right?
The more you have planned, the more you're doing, the more useful you feel, and the more excited about life, I think the better your aging is going to go.
And, you know, living to your 100, that's all great as long as you do it healthy. You know, I don't want to be here more years than my body wants me to be here. And I think that's something that you have to take into consideration too is, okay, living longer is great. Living better is even greater, you know.
That's where it comes to that health span and that lifespan.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Buy the book. There's a book out there. There's a documentary out there. Get that information, but try to implement one thing, like the movement. I think park your car way out the back side of the parking lot. Get those little steps in. Go to the back bathroom instead of the bathroom close to you. Just little simple things to keep your body moving.
The first senior seminar I ever taught was called Living to be 100, and people would call and say, now what's this on again? And I'd tell them and they'd be like, oh no.
No, I don't want to do that.
And it's not so much that we don't maybe want to become centenarians or super centenarians, it's that we don't want to live in pain or, you know, not really live. We want to feel good. If we're feeling good, we're okay with it.
Still ahead,
They don't have enough to eat. Who knows why?
how one retiree is inspiring a community to fight against childhood hunger. But first,
If it weren't for a diabetes prevention program, do you think you would still be pre-diabetic?
I think I probably would be pre-diabetic still.
we'll show you how one state is tackling diabetes inequities and share practical ways you can lower your risk.
Welcome back. Diabetes is one of the fastest growing diseases in the world. And according to a 2023 study, the number of people with the potentially deadly condition is expected to double in the next 25 years. Unlike other chronic diseases like cancer, many people can reverse the risk for type 2 diabetes with diet and exercise. Reporter Kristen Crowley is in Colorado with a look at solutions working to address disparities in communities across the state.
So my name is Letitia.
Karen, Sierra Howard.
Let us introduce you to 3 people in 2 different parts of Colorado with one major fear.
Does the idea of getting diabetes scare you?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Why?
Because I want to be healthy.
Letitia Rodriguez, Sierra Howard, and Karen Buffalo all have a family history of diabetes, and they have good reason to worry. When you have diabetes, it means your body doesn't produce enough insulin or can't use it properly, and it can be deadly. But for many people, it's preventable with a healthy diet and exercise.
I hope they do more cooking classes though.
Sierra and Letitia live in Weld County, where its largest city, Greeley, has a diabetes rate of 14.2%, a number not just higher than the state of Colorado, but most states in the country. Public Health Communication Manager for Weld County, Kelly Martinez, says time and money often stand in the way of some residents' healthy lifestyles.
What if you don't have transportation to get to the mountains? What if you don't feel safe walking around your neighborhood? What if you live in a food desert and it's really difficult for you to get healthy foods?
Nationwide, minorities like Hispanics, Blacks, and Native Americans are at greater risk for diabetes than others. Martinez says in Weld County, about 17% of its Hispanic population has diabetes, compared to 10% of its white population. She's on a mission to reverse Weld County's rate. In 1996, Colorado's diabetes rate was less than half what it is today, at 3%. 4 years later, that jumped to 5.1%, and it's steadily increasing. So how does the state slow down this growth trend? By growing its diabetes prevention program through the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
We took people and found that if we had them diet and exercise, we actually reduced the progression to type 2 diabetes by almost 50%. And that's where diabetes prevention really took off.
The YMCA runs diabetes prevention programs in person and virtually in portions of the state.
Keep the plate visual in your mind.
Karen is taking it for the first time. She's already seeing a difference.
The weight is down 9 pounds, so that's really good for me. The numbers are there. We know that this works.
Amy Sagendorf, who helps run the program through the Y, says most people who take the course have similar outcomes like Karen, but only a fraction of those who need it take it. In an attempt to break down economic and cultural barriers, for the first time, the program is now free and in Spanish for the population most at risk.
Our goal is to reduce the diagnosis of diabetes by 5% within the next 5 years.
Letitia's walking proof change can happen. She's no longer pre-diabetic. Now her goal is staying that way and hopefully helping Weld County reduce its numbers along the way.
So interesting that people that go through the program have a notable change, and that it's just a matter of how do we get more people to get interested in this.
Well, I think when you see people who know they have a family history, that is very smart for them to tune in. You know, we used to always think that gene was there, you couldn't do anything about it, but we now know that there's a thing called epigenetics. The gene is there, but you can modify how it's going to be expressed. So by doing these things like taking control of nutrition, exercise, and things like that, you can actually really kind of ward off. You really need to have someone to really check all the things, your glucose, your A1C, and your insulin. Insulin will tell the story long before the rest of the disease is coming. And the biggest thing is that what diabetes is doing, it is damaging the vessels. Microvasculature damage. You don't see that inside the arteries. You just see the effects of it later on.
Right.
So what are some of the ways that it affects the entire body?
Everywhere you have an artery. So the brain, the heart, eyes, kidneys. You see a lot of diabetics, you see the kidneys go down first.
Yeah,
that's what's going on because the vessels are getting damaged. So even though someone says, hey, my A1C looks really good, if your insulin is high, that process is still going on.
Next,
I had no idea it would be that much money.
how this retired educator inspired others to volunteer and give back to their community.
We want you to meet former principal Barbara Hyde. She's heading back to school, this time to volunteer with Food for Kids, a program she started to provide students with groceries for the weekend when schools are closed. Here's Joe Carroll in Dover, Vermont with more.
There's no class today at the Dover School in southern Vermont.
We've been packing since September.
But just past the CAFA Gymatorium, there's a flurry of activity. Volunteers are packing bags of food.
So this is for next week, right?
To give kids nourishment for the weekend that they might not have at home.
Yay!
It was 85-year-old Barb Hyde's idea for the grocery giveaway called Food for Kids.
They don't have enough to eat. Who knows why?
The group of mostly women also packed meals for schools in Wurtsboro and Wilmington, an area where million-dollar homes dot the mountainside. But there are pockets of poverty. Barb says many locals work seasonal jobs.
A lot of the second homeowners have no idea that there is poverty or that there are kids that are hungry.
That once included Barb. She and her family traveled up from New Jersey to ski on the weekends.
How would you describe yourself?
Oh, I guess I'm a doer.
And still a skier.
Oh, it's what I do, yeah. I ski with a group of women called Chicks on Sticks.
She convinced Mount Snow Ski Resort to donate $12 grand towards the hunger program.
I had no idea it would be that much money.
That was a few years ago. Now their cash on hand is low, but the prices of food is high. When the group started in 2017, it cost them $3 a bag. Now it's easily over $5.
Yeah, let's do that.
Do some of you folks put in your own little bit of money?
Yes. Yeah. Because we really do believe in the program.
This year, they'll pack 2,500 bags of free meals, 17,000 since the beginning.
What do we have here?
Oh, this is just from my former life when I was a high school principal.
Principal encourages female students. So how did you encourage them?
I brought in women in management positions where they used math.
Today, though, the focus is on food.
Do you think you're making a difference?
I hope so.
If it's any indication by the amount of bags going out the door, their work is certainly fulfilling.
There we go.
To Barbara and all of those wonderful people doing that, for sure you're making a difference. Not just what you're doing for those children, but the example you're setting for everyone watching Aging Untold, so that more people are inspired to be doers and make a difference.
Yeah,
I want to be a Chicks on Sticks.
Chicks on Sticks.
Chicks on Sticks. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
But look how many children and how many families they're affecting for the good.
Yeah.
Those kids aren't going hungry over the weekend, and so many do.
I was struck by her humility. You know, how do you see yourself? And then she looks, I guess, a doer. So I'd want to ask more questions because I'm sure that she led a really selfless life.
We're all getting older, and it's about time we talked about it. Until next time on Aging Untold.
On the next Aging Untold, some say love knows no bounds. But what if mom's dating someone 20 years younger?
But if she's truly happy, if he's, 40 years old and they're living it up, who am I to judge?
We'll discuss when age gaps spark suspicion and family fights.